So today, obviously, is Yom HaZikaron, the Israeli Memorial Day for um, all the soldiers and all the victims that fell either through wars or terrorist attacks for Israel, whether it was because they're Jewish Israelis, because people tried to attack them or they tried to defend us. So we'll try to dedicate the learning we're going to do today, Leilu Nishmat, all these people. There is it's a fascinating and surprising, very different connection that we have, and every year think about it again about the fact that Yom HaZikaron, this Israeli Memorial Day, is always set before Yom HaAtzmaut, the Israeli Independence Day, which will happen tonight. Which means for as a people and definitely as families who lost the members, the loved ones, there's a very strong, sharp twist between being very sad and trying to remember their family, and then into this happiness. From 1 minute, you're supposed to go out from this very deep sadness into this ultimate happiness, Yom Ha'atzmaut, celebrations. It's Firat Omer, yet everyone's allowed to listen to music and dance and everything else. And why is it so? We don't have this in other traditions and other people. It doesn't seem like it can have, it makes sense. And yet in Israel, we do it every year. So there's a interesting historical fact, which starts off with the fact that very first, Yom HaZikaron, when Israel announced its independence in 1948, following minutes, the war broke. And then Israel was very busy with fighting throughout the beginning of its instatement. And then throughout this year, the chief rabbi of the IDF of Tzal, Rav Shlomo Goren, kept being with discussions with the officials where to put a Memorial Day. Already started, people already lost their lives for protecting Israel. At that time, it was just one war, and nothing. I mean, there's people who died previously to the wars as an actions of all the underground movements of the early Israeli state, before it became a state. And he said, we need the Memorial Day. We now have Independence Day. We know when we announce our independence. What about the Memorial Day to remember all these people? And there were various discussions. They thought of Tisha B'Av. They thought of connecting with Asara B'Tevet, which nowadays is connected to the general Kaddish Day for the Holocaust. So they came up with different ideas, but couldn't come to a certain agreement. 3 days before Yom HaAtzmaut, Shlomo Goren says to the first chief of staff of the army of Israel, Yaakov Dori, listen, if we have to have something, Yom HaAtzmaut in 3 days, we didn't commemorate the loss of the soldiers, the loss of the people who gave their lives for this country. We have to do something. So make an order, tell people that tomorrow, basically it came up to be the 4th of Iyar, that will be the day. Tell everyone to be ready to be the Memorial Day. So that's what they did for that year. And in a way, it's some kind of like a coincidence that it happened, the very first one anyway, that they decided on it to be like that, without any specific connection to Yom HaAtzmaut. Just didn't have a choice. They had to have something. But then a discussion started. For the first 2 years, I mean, Israel was more busy with fighting rather than think about Memorial Days. But along the way, the discussion came in with the official, with Ben Gurion and the other heads of state, to figure out when to put that day. So they wanted in the beginning to do it together with Yom HaAtzmaut. And families objected. Families of they lost their loved ones said, we can't have it the same day. It needs to be a separate, specific day. So in the very beginning, they thought maybe they'll do it in April, before Yom HaAtzmaut, a week before, a week after. And then eventually they decided to keep it the way it was. And Ben Gurion very famously said that we shouldn't be afraid, shouldn't be worried of having Yom HaZikaron just before Yom HaAtzmaut, because we need to understand that the reason why we are able to celebrate that note is because of those people who gave their lives and are giving their lives protecting Israel. So it's not shouldn't be a word. Yet, history aside, still feels very weird to a lot of people. And in Israel, this nowadays, a lot of families are trying to change it. Still, and this shift is a very, very strong, painful one. I want to say that I think it's a very Jewish concept to have sadness together with the happiness in such a way to marry them together. There's a Gemara in Masechet Brachot, Daf Lamed Amud Bet, and later in Daf Lamed Aleph Amud Aleph, where there's a series of incidents where happiness was broken for some sadness, starting off with Ravina, who is in the marriage of his son. He saw that the rabbis are too happy. The Gemara says, Avu kabad chetuva, they're too happy. And what did he do? He took this glass, which was very expensive, 400 zuz worth of a cup, of a glass cup, and he broke it. And the rabbi became sad. That's how the Gemara ends the story. People are happy. What's wrong with it? And then the Gemara continues with another story of Ashi's wedding, and he used a very expensive car. He saw the rabbis are too happy and he broke it. What's wrong about being too happy? So there's two types of happiness. There's this happiness, number one, that comes from just a drink of alcohol, and I'm just dancing around. I have no idea what's going on with me. I'm very happy going to the dance floor and dancing around. That's very nice. But that's not true happiness. That's just being energetic, too much adrenaline, or using something external to be happy. But then there's this real happiness comes from this real source of understanding why you are happy. Understanding that you have a lot to be grateful for Hashem about why you're happy, is understanding this happiness. Why am I happy? I'm happy because Hashem did this to me. I can't do that without understanding and being together with the content. Very similar idea, and in a very kind of you need to be very deep into it in Purim. When we are trying to be happy in Purim, we say we need to drink until we don't know the difference between Haman and Mordechai. The idea is not to just drink senseless and just completely forget about everything. Is the idea I'm drinking in order to be able to not differentiate. There's a deep understanding about how the drinking over there needs to really bring me to a understanding that my happiness is for being saved and that Hashem saved us. Same thing here when I try to be happy with, when we're trying to think about what happened with Ravina's wedding. He saw the rabbis are too happy. They just really weren't even thinking about why they're happy. They're just enjoying the party. They came to this fancy meal. They were drinking good wine. And they're just been too happy without understanding why. And Ravina wanted to bring them back into the understanding that there's a content behind this happiness. You're here to really appreciate this. Chesed Hashem brought two people together. This is a wedding, true happiness here. And that's why they became sad. Not that they started crying, but they understood to take down the level of really understand where it comes from. Yom Ha'atzmaut is all about that. We're not just going around in Israel, people running around in the streets with foam cans and spraying people and rubber hammers and all those things. It's not just that, it's just to be happy, doing barbecues around town. It's about understanding why we're happy. How come Hashem took these people from being scattered all over the world, from being in the Holocaust with the remainder of whatever was the Jewish communities in Europe, and starting this incredible state that we say now 75 years later is just unparalleled in the history of the world, how people so broken and so attacked from all angles and keep being attacked. We keep on fighting for our lives. Nobody has to deal with such a thing, yet we are so strong. But Hashem gave us this strength to continue and to still preserve and to do and to be where we are at the moment. This happiness comes from a very true, genuine understanding of where we were and where we are now, and please God, where we'll be in the future. And I think there's another element here, which is also another Jewish concept in terms of sadness and happiness, is the fact that I think the Jewish people, again, can research it, but I don't think we need to. I think it's quite clear from all the other people, we are the ones who were able, in the best way, to be in this kind of devastating situation of being very sad because all the trouble that happened to us. But instead of just soaking with our sadness, just staying there and just like, okay, that's it, we give up. Nothing, we can't do it anymore. We took whatever we had with us and we rebuilt our lives. So there was destruction of one Beit HaMikdash. The Jewish people were exiled to Babylon. And over there, they didn't just say, okay, it's the end, nothing's going to happen. They tried to rebuild their life in Babylon, eventually went back to build the second Beit HaMikdash. And then another, again, how devastating it is. You already have established again the state, you have the Beit HaMikdash, and then the Romans come and destroy second Beit HaMikdash, massacre everywhere, all over Israel. Again, another exile that now lasted for thousands of years. But then the Jewish communities, wherever they were brought, they excelled and they tried to be to build their life both in their religion, in Judaism, and also wherever they were, trying to make something much more of their lives, just being refugees. And then they were sent out. They were sent out from expelled from England, expelled from France, expelled from Spain, and every place they got deported to, difficult in the beginning, but rebuild their lives. And then the Holocaust, after the Holocaust, the Jewish people, you would have assumed such a devastating tragedy. Well, what do you do? How can you continue from there? But then, yes, that was the biggest rising up, going from 1945 to 1948 and have an Israeli state. It's a totally Jewish concept to be able to not just stay in this depth of sense, but to be able to straight away come up and build up our lives and be where we are now. I remember thinking about it in a very different, similar example. And when I was in the army, then my first encounter with fire was we were in Hebron. It was a very on a kind of personal level. We just finished a parachuting course, had our nice silver wings, and we all thought it was Rosh Hashanah. We all thought, great, we're going to go home. Everyone will be able to see it, able to tell their family about this course we're going through. It's a fun thing. But our commanding officer, just before we were on the bus to go home, says, listen, the situation became very um, um, difficult and dangerous in Hebron, and we are all have to go and help the fortifying all the stations. We need to guard the people who now come into Hebron to do their prayers in Ma'at HaMachpelah, in Kiryat Arba. So we were sent there, not going home, sadness, happiness. But I remember going there, and we were there for hours guarding. And one of the specific missions that I had together with my commanding officer, we went around between stations to make sure everything is okay. And you see a lot of people going home and they're very, very happy and Rosh Hashanah, and we're walking around and suddenly we hear shooting. And we run to this place where the shooting took place, and we see the person who was lying down was shot. And this was after 5 months, 4 months of training. And okay, when you're training in the army, is stations where you have the cartons, yeah, you shoot at all kind of rocks, but then suddenly it's real, and you have to deal with. So either you are totally shocked and you leave yourself, and that can happen, obviously, and it's totally normal to just kind of let go, or you understand that you need to leave this for later. You understand there's something here that you have to deal with, and you have to react. And I remember that stage, it just very shocking moment, but you kind of are able to push it aside and to deal with what you have at hand and to protect the people. There's some shooting going on. And you don't just stop there. And we continued, eventually found the guy was responsible for that. Again, unfortunately for that specific situation, was the person who got shot was killed. The family was there. But then the idea is that don't stop just because something is sad for you, something is shocking for you, something is scaring you. I think that's not what we do as Jewish people. We are a very strong nation, and Hashem gave us those powers and is accompanying us throughout our history to enable us to be able to rise from these ashes, from this sadness into this great happiness, which means yes, today is Yom HaZikaron, is a Memorial Day, but then tomorrow will be Yom Ha'atzmaut. And Bezrat Hashem, this kind of moving from sadness to happiness will lead us eventually to this total happiness that we can sing after every Chag that we do, L'Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim, to be happy together with all our.
Any questions, observations on this?
Being an individual. Different stages in mourning. There's the first 3 days for crying, and after that, person is not allowed to cry anymore. And then there's 7 days of the Shiva, and then there's the Shloshim, and then there's the year. Every time there is sadness, and you move to a certain level that you can't go back. You need now to move on. Says if you are going back to do the other sad things that you didn't. Let's say a person says he wants to stay Shiva for the whole 30 days, feels so sad. He's not allowed to, as much as there is a mourning here, because you need to understand that Hashem is with you. And for every sadness, there will be a continuation of happiness. Hashem will be with you. If you are still staying in the sadness, you are basically saying, no, that's it, Hashem left me. But that's not, you can't say that. You need to understand. You were sad, and that's actually the Gemara, that Alha wants you to be sad at the moment, but then Alha also wants you to get out of this sadness and to move on.
Oral, very moving, and the most moving part. 90-year-old United Whatever survivor got up to speak. He said he knew the couple who funded this whole thing. He said they buried six bodies at that place, 5 adults and 1 child. And he heard that the man, the husband, very ill and didn't know how long he had to go. He said that he went to visit him just a little while ago. Went to visit him. The man was very frail. He said, "Hold my hand." He held his hand. Now he wants to say the Shema. He said, his friends told him that was it happening. The boy was there, and he says, "Now I'm relief. Now I'm happy." And he passed away the following. Yeah. Beautiful thing.
Okay, thank you everyone. I will say goodbye to those on Zoom. We will see you again next Tuesday. Speaker to be advised.